Well, yeah, great to have everybody here. As mentioned, we are right before lunch, so we'll keep everybody super awake as we dive into this. But have here with me Jordy Freed. I'll let him introduce himself from Sony.
Thanks, Cole. Hi, I'm Jordy Freed. I am the head of brand and business development for Sony Corporation of America, focused on personal entertainment. So that's consumer, professional audio. But even though it's the tech side, it's actually really connected to entertainment. So we're heavily focused on music, lifestyle properties, and how we kind of converge our brand with those touch points, and a little bit of dash of BD too on the tech side.
Yeah,
So,
you've got quite the title there.
yeah.
Very impressive. Yeah, and I'm Cole Cook. I'm on our consulting group at Core Software. So we work with brands, agencies, teams across the globe on managing and measuring their sports partnerships. So work very closely with Sony over the years, actually, with some of our brands.
Which part?
Yeah, there's so many angles to it. But yeah, let's dive in. Your title obviously is got a lot of words in it. You've got a very full plate, which is awesome to see. But as a leader across a bunch of different verticals, how do you ensure that there's a consistent messaging across all of the different channels that you're running?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's about our brand. Even if you have BD, partner marketing, we're trying to grow the strength of our brand to our constituents, right? And we have a couple different constituents. We have consumers, obviously, who buy our headphones, other products, et cetera. But because we also have creators themselves are actually huge constituents. I mean, Sony overall is a creator-focused entertainment company these days across the portfolio, whether you're looking at Sony Pictures and how we work with directors, filmmakers, PlayStation, game developers, music creators on the Sony music side, that does carry over to audio, right? So at the end of the day, what do we want to represent in terms of that core message? Obviously, we're doing it in different ways through, whether it's consumer, whether it's professional, whether it's a business partnership or even a brand co-marketing engagement. It's all about that core brand message, and we just keep that in mind across everything.
Yeah, you guys have definitely an awesome legacy in all those verticals that you just mentioned. I think my first Walkman as a child was a Sony. It was bright blue, and there's days I wish I could have that thing back on the subway instead of the phone that distracts you with all the emails and stuff. But I know you guys are working and have launched a campaign that you're calling For the Music, right? And it's got a couple different verticals for the ear, for the stage, and for the studio. Can you talk about, for the audience, kind of the ideation behind that, the development, and how that campaign has gone for you guys so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, this particular division, because it's not like from a consumer perspective, someone goes on Amazon and says, hey, I want Sony audio. It's not a particular sub brand within the overall master brand. So when someone is thinking Sony overall, that obviously means a lot of different things. So we were trying to think about what's our distinctive brand voice, brand campaign to communicate the value proposition of this particular business. And we've been focused on music as a key, passion point for many years, and we've been building up to this point. So we launched For the Music in July last year. And the purpose is really to support creator vision over everything. We feel that from an audio brand perspective, knowing that we have products that support creators through the creative process, and then it's listened to through our consumer products, the most important connection is between a fan and an artist. And we want to be in the middle of supporting that connection in deeper ways. Obviously, there's the surface level from a product perspective, but in deeper ways too. And a lot of that's through storytelling, through experiential activation, et cetera. So it's really about bringing that creator vision to life so that we can enhance how fans and artists connect to each other.
That's super cool. And I love that you have a very integrated approach to your marketing, whether it's being involved in the product development through the storytelling. You have a piece in each of that. So that's very cool to see. But as you mentioned, for kind of the For the Music campaign, can you dive into how your team is involved from idea to product development to campaign launch? Because as we were talking about yesterday, you've got so many different tentacles to your specific role and how you're implementing those changes with innovation in your product development.
Yeah, it makes it very, very unique and interesting in terms of where we sit, because we're not sitting just from a brand marketing role. We're not sitting just from BD role or how we look at the partner side or creative side. We're kind of looking at everything at the end, like you said. So a perfect example is maybe some of the work we did with Olivia Rodrigo. We had a headphone that had come out maybe a year prior, and we were looking for a refresh in the cycle under For the Music. So we partnered with Olivia, did the deal with her that, most teams, that would be their role, contract, celebrity, boom, okay. Well, no, that's not where we, and we worked with her on a custom headphone that was really something she created herself, but we actually wanted to take it a step deeper to tell that story and actually mean it in terms of that deeper connection. So our team worked with the product planning team to actually create a new feature, part of the headphone called Custom EQ. And that feature, she literally tuned her first two albums for the headphones that we brought to market, that you could only listen to that custom tuning on those headphones. She worked with her producer, her engineer, herself, listened to everything. Obviously, each headphone has its own kind of acoustical properties. When someone listens to music on any pair of headphones, there's going to be variance, but it's tuned for the masses. She tuned it for the people using this particular headphone, and you could get it through a firmware update. That's something that's on a much deeper level than just choosing a color. So that's everything from choosing the talent you work with to the engineering development with the product planning team to how you position it in market, partners you bring on. Spotify was a partner with us for the go-to-market. We oversee that end to end.
It's fantastic. I think for the athlete marketers in the room, oftentimes it's change the color and let's slap a logo on it and roll with it. But you guys are taking that to a much deeper level, which is very interesting. And you mentioned Spotify a little bit. Sony's unique in the sense that you have a lot of B2B partnerships as well with Amazon Music, Spotify. Can you explain for the audience what those mean to Sony and how they help drive your business forward?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at our core business, right, and again, some of these partners are cross-functional partners with other businesses of Sony. So obviously, Sony Music side, some of these streaming platforms are some of their biggest partners. PlayStation was a huge partner to Spotify when they were launching as a brand. So it does work cross-functionally, but for our business, specifically for audio, with music being kind of the primary passion point of usage for headphones, right? Believe it or not, all streaming platforms actually want to tap into user base. So they're looking at, okay, if we have particular features on a platform level, what's our competitive edge compared to other platforms? And you can enable some of those features through certain headphones. And so we work with a lot of those teams on what some of the technical implications, the implementations look like on platform, how we bring those to market, how we're offering unique trials as value add to our customers, and how they can look at acquiring customers, and then obviously on the artist side too. It just adds another element of value proposition for both teams.
It's awesome. As we sit in FanDuel's HQ here, user acquisition is definitely a key for them as well, which I think it's interesting the stuff you guys are doing to package that all together. But let's talk a little bit more about kind of the experiential lens of your role. As I mentioned earlier, Walkmans are long gone, but I think we're seeing with the next generation, people want experiences and they don't want to be stuck on glued on their phone all day. How does that incorporate from Sony Audio with whether it's music festivals, concerts? Where are you guys going as it relates to experiential and connecting with your consumers, both on the professional side and the day-to-day retail shopper?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I will say on the Walkman front, even in 2024, we get more requests from artists for Walkmans than you would ever imagine.
Bring them
So
back.
we're
Let's
going to
do
have
it.
to think about that. To the core question on experiential, a lot of it has to do with fandom, right? If we're a brand for the music and we're working with talent, how are we, it's not interesting enough to say, hey, here's XYZ product, try it. It lives through the content, right? So, we're constantly looking at, okay, who are the talent that we should be collaborating with based on new music and what kind of interesting first listen experiences we can create. I mean, we just did a smaller activation with a rising star on Columbia Records, Girl in Red, with Amazon Music, I think last month, right before her album dropped. We're always kind of looking at how we can bring content through our products to customers first. And we do that through partnerships, obviously. We have different technologies like immersive audio that add another component. We've even looked back in the past where we've done Thriller 40th anniversary, David Bowie 75th birthday, things like that on a smaller scale. But yeah, it centers around the content first and foremost, and we just pop up around those moments. And on the professional side, it's actually a little bit more collaborative. It's definitely not mass consumer facing. For the professional segment, we need to market to the broader kind of what we call prosumer. These are folks that aren't necessarily making crazy money on the creation side, but they're more than just listeners. There's kind of somewhere in between. So we've been doing a number of creator camps where we bring engineers, producers, songwriters together in remote locations, close it off. We don't even invite press. We capture content, of course, but we want to be a playground for those creators. And again, it does come back to the ethos of the overall company at this point. So
Can I get an invite?
next time, remote locations. I mean, I think we did something.
How remote are we talking here? Like Firefest remote or?
So there's an interesting thing we do with the imaging side called Condo Trip, and every year it's out west, and you choose a bucolic kind of picturesque location where they bring the. I'm sure many folks probably on the sports side are familiar with the Sony Alpha photographer community. They've been doing this for a number of years where they bring their top photography influencers out and just capture really amazing photos. And they create these unique moments and they're creators. So we said, you know what, why don't we expand that? Why don't we bring music creators in through audio? And so we did that, I think, Sun Valley, maybe a year or two ago. We just had a creator camp with Sony Music Publishing in Miami. Not a bad place to be for songwriting camp. So yeah, we're looking at these different moments and kind of thinking about how we bring different creators together.
It's super cool. I think everybody here should probably be at the next one. But as we mentioned, part of your role is business development as well. So I know there's some new verticals that you guys are exploring at Sony. And can you expand on that for the audience and how those are going to help push your specific audio vertical?
Yeah, I can't go too deep in any particular project, but I will say, and I think we've gone on the record to say, the fashion lifestyle space is one that so many brands are looking at, particularly in this vertical. More and more when we look at the customer, they're looking for choice. They're looking for how certain product fits into overall aesthetics. So we're very interested in that space, and it's an intriguing one. Education's another point, and I think that comes back to kind of thinking about the education and support of next generation creators. So we're working on some things in that area. And also another area too is other forms of media, right? So when we think about fandom, when we think about how to bring groups of community together, we're thinking about different touch points of where that can happen. And we are intrigued by a number of different formats and mediums in kind of the broader media sphere for how to do that. But stay tuned for that.
Love the
space.
cliffhanger there. What's your go-to marketing channel right now when it comes to retail conversion,
Retail conversion specifically, sales channel or marketing channel?
sales channel?
I'd say connected TV is huge for us. I mean, we are so fascinated by what's going on with CTV. We love the data that we get. We love the insights that we're seeing. We love the scalability. We love the economics around it. So, out of everything, I'd say, more and more we're focused on CTV as a key media touch point for us.
Yeah, that's great. You and all the sports leagues are figuring it out together. That's for sure. But you mentioned insights and some of your measurement capabilities there. Core, as I mentioned earlier, we work with brands and agencies, rights holders to measure sponsorship effectiveness. Would love to hear from you in Sony's chair. What are the KPIs you're focused on? What metrics are you looking at? How often are you reporting those types of things?
Our team kind of sits in a very unique place because the way we're structured, we're an extension of headquarters. So we're the business unit. We don't have a P&L responsibility to sell X number of units for our team. We have regions that focus on those things. Of course, our activities all need to contribute to sales, but that's just one, metric, obviously. We're looking at the usual brand affinity metrics in terms of how we're growing association with music, how we're looking at brand favorability. We're looking at certain features that we develop in terms of the usage uptick. We get a lot of data from our apps and touch points associated with that. We have a lot of insight in terms of what our customers are using to overlay that against who we're collaborating with. And it's surprising us in many ways that we're choosing some of the right collaborators. We're also looking at some of these new ventures as proofs of concept to kind of think about, hey, are we, is this proving out, a hypothesis for us? And that's kind of a less obvious KPI. It's not a true kind of tangible, hey,
It's a learning
yeah,
opportunity.
yeah. These are learning opportunities. These are future bets in a lot of cases, right? We have kind of the core brand metrics we need to hit on, but in parallel, we can test
What
and
is
learn.
the 3
We
to
can really,
5,
yeah,
10-year
yeah.
roadmap look
What's
like?
our 5, 10 year? What's our roadmap? You try things. And it's not just about sales. It's about you might bring a product to market, but it's about a particular feature and what's the uptick on that feature, and how does the consumer feel about it? Should we double down on that? And how does that relate to brand? Right? Is there a licensing play with a particular partner? Right? So it's much more complex than a straight, brand measurement. I think brand is at the core for sure. But there's these outgrowths from the BD side.
Yeah, lots of opportunities as you expand for sure. Well, I know we've got probably 5 or so minutes left, but a couple of just kind of quick hitters I always like to ask at these sports marketing conferences is if you had an unlimited budget as a marketer, what sports team or athlete or creator would you want to do a partnership with and why?
Unlimited budget.
Unlimited budget, no ROI tied to it. Your job is very safe.
I would that sounds great. Sign me up. I would probably go neither on the either or, and I'd probably look at platform acquisition of some sort, and not on the B2B kind of MarTech side. I'd be looking at different creator platforms that have mass creator base and look at how we integrate, and look at it as a venture that drives brand, probably.
Love that. And then what's one brand outside of the audio space that you're keeping an eye on for cool creative, cool concepts, kind of an innovator? What are you focused on?
Love what MasterCard's doing. They're doing great work. Love the focus on the different passion points and verticals. Obviously, they're doing a lot within Sonic branding, so there's one component, but they're not in the audio space. But that intersection of those lifestyle experiences and what people care about, I love what they did during the Grammys with SZA to premiere a new music video. That kind of value. And you even see that, right, in terms of some of the comments on YouTube from that spot. There was true, genuine association and not just a sponsored by.
Right.
And there was value for both sides. You have value for the artists, value for the fans, and that's just great work.
Yeah. And there's someone from MasterCard in the audience, so kudos to you for mentioning that. But with that, we'll turn it over to the audience for questions. I don't know if there's a microphone. If anybody has any questions for Jordy.
All right, so for the experiential side, jumping into that, like how big do you guys get into like the Coachellas of the world, the festivals of the world? Is that a focus for you guys?
Not at all. not at all, actually. It's played out. You know, you're fighting share of voice. It's expected. We're looking for the unexpected, the things that aren't obvious, things that are a little bit more ownable to an extent, things where there's a little bit more organic engagement. You know, there's a lot of investment in those major tent poles that I'm not even sure they're tent poles anymore. Not to bash Coachella, but I mean, every year you look at the sales and it's harder and harder for them to sell. Maybe 5-7 years ago, sold out within, I don't even know, an hour. Now it took a matter of days, I think. And every year that half-life decreases. So as a touch point, you know, is it really worth spending that amount of money for what compared to share of voice? We're looking at things a little bit differently. We spread the love a little bit in terms of smaller, more frequent activations. And, you know, and I think too, it's like when you think of and we've talked a lot about this internally, the moment to activate around and you have these cultural tentpoles. Well, it's not the traditional temples anymore. I'd rather be more responsive to what's happening in real time, you know, based on where the conversation's at and creating or latching onto that moment than saying, hey, Coachella, or hey, Olympics, or hey, because those are fixed and, you know, things are happening in real time. We want to be more responsive.
I still have my yellow Walkman.
Does it work is the question.
My kids don't know how to use it.
Well, we need some exclusive content on cassette, so.
Any other questions in the audience?
Any interest in developing headphones for action water sports?
For sport?
Action water sports.
It's an interesting one. You know, I would have to talk to product planning team, but I mean, again, I think there's application for everything. You know, we do have certain products that touch on that vertical. I think we even we went to market a couple years back with truly waterproof headphones for working out that were a little bit more resistant, light, not breakable, but just could really hold up under really intense conditions. So maybe you're onto something there.
Anybody else? Everybody's ready for lunch, it looks like.
Lunch, probably.
Oh, we got it.
Yeah, what's a competitor that worries you the most, and what are some gaps that you might be looking to close to them?
What was the second part of that question?
And what are some gaps that you might be looking to close relative to them?
The gaps?
Yeah.
I don't think there's one competitor. I think, you know, we're really just focused first and foremost on trying to do our own thing. Honestly, I know it sounds cliche, but I like to be of the mindset for our brand that if other people are doing it, maybe we shouldn't do it. We want to be distinctive, unique. We're not really a follower brand. In fact, a lot of the features that we're developing are not necessarily being adapted elsewhere. And, you know, we're seeing uptick in some of those things. Just in terms of gaps, I'd say overall, it's just increasing value proposition. I think that's just a general aspiration we have overall. You know, how are we just continuing to add more and more value to create the differentiation? And that's just between us and our customers, less about what competitors are doing.
Well, let's give it up for Jordy and